up here joining me are some friends of mine, and I cannot wait for you to hear. I cannot wait for you to hear from them. I don't know for sure what Holy Spirit wants to do in this space, but when I was like, Lord, I want to hear from people who stories I've heard, who I know have experienced God's abundance, and who I also know it didn't look the way they have thought it would look, who would be the first to tell you that God's still doing things. It's not like the story is written. It's not like we're putting a bow on anything today, right, ladies? I think that we would all agree to that. But sometimes when we hear from people who are literally just like us, who are literally in the thick of it, and who are experiencing God's abundance in that, it can help us be reminded that no matter where we are and what we have going on, we can experience it as well. So welcome. I'm going to let you just spend a few minutes, ladies, introducing yourselves. And just let people know who you are, and just a quick version of your story. Quick. I mean reasonable, but and you will have to put the microphone up. It works better up here. Okay.
Hi, my name is Holly Brooks, and a quick version of me. I don't know, I'm a child of God, I guess. The story continues to grow, and I volunteer here at Hope once in a while, and I'm a personal trainer, and I've lived in Des Moines for the last 12 years, and I've been going Hope for those 12 years. So I don't know how much you want to get. There's so many details. We don't want to go off.
Well, what we want to know is,
okay.
What we really want to know is why would someone look at you and say, I can see how God has shown up abundantly in her life?
Oh, you're asked. Okay, got it. We're right on.
We're
doing introductions. Okay, we're going right in, ladies.
Yeah, we're digging in. We don't have time to mess around.
Okay, sorry. Moving on, let's go. So how did God show up abundantly? I have to tell you, it continues to show up. I can go back and I sit here and I was like, God, what do you want me to share with these ladies? Like, there is multiple times, and I don't say it in a light way, like he just is, I'm this person that God's always showing up. It's just in small things to big things, right? Like this week, I would say, that coming into this, I kind of can relate to Amanda. Like I kept getting hit, and I'm like, Lord, what's going on? And I knew Saturday was coming, and I'm like, I know you want to share stuff with these ladies, and I want to be able to speak what you asked for. So then he just takes it away, and he just gives me the time to sit and rest and just hear what he has to say. How else he showed me? I mean, when I made a career change to go out on my own, I kept hearing the same song. Right? And I had to hear it multiple times before I'm like, he's telling me to trust him, to go deeper with him into the waters, to step out and say he will provide for me when I don't know where my income's going to happen, right? To being in relationships that weren't healthy for me, that have been, was physical, it was verbal, and it was not good. But he put the right people at the right time. Like I'd go to Chris Tomlin concert. Who would guess that the next night I would need to go to a concert to, have him just wash upon me his love and know that no matter what or what happens, he has me. And so those are part of the stories that I think about, or going on trips and, listening to what he has, and I'm thinking it's going to go one way, and he's going to teach me, a conference, he's going to tell me all this stuff I need to know, and it wasn't the stuff I had to hear, it was living it and experiencing it and trusting him to get me to the next step of whatever that looked like, or the snow that came in California that we shouldn't have had snow, and then the blue skies go, like asking for blue skies just so I could get back to Iowa, because I just wanted to feel like in my bed, like, okay, God, I know you're here now. But those are the things I think he just shows up in ways that I don't even completely understand, but he does it, and I could sit there and ask him, Lord, I want this now, or I want this at a certain time, thinking, okay, this is how he's going to do it, and then all of a sudden, it's like the stop sign that's right in front of your face, and he's like, are you looking? Are you really looking at the light? And so I think those are the ways that he's just showed up abundantly and carried me through, but it's the journey to get to the abundance that he teaches us of who we are and how much he loves us, and continues to tell you what he created you to do, even in the doubt when you're like, really, this is where you want me to go? Like, I need to step out of the boat right here. And that's kind of where I see him showing up, because that's kind of where you have to trust that, and his plans are better than our plans, honestly.
Okay. Thanks, Holly. Yeah.
Well, my name is Shai Marks, and I'm extra, so I have a prop. I do. It's a thing.
I was wondering what that...
I was thinking about my journey, and I'm 41, and so there's 41 years of life to have a journey with, right? And I thought about it, and my journey ultimately is, I think summed up on a sermon I heard that said, oftentimes we have a plan for our life, right? We, from a very early age, we think we're going to grow up. A lot of us get married, have children. I thought I was going to have 100 kids because I really, truly, sorry, Mom, I did. I wanted 100 kids. So I didn't understand. That's what I thought I wanted. Fast forward to 42, I'm a single mom with one daughter. And if you look at kind of those things and how I thought my life was going to go and how it actually has gone, I think that's where my story lies. I think, and the reason why I bought the chair, I saw a really cool illustration. This is what I thought my life was going to be. This big old comfy chair. I have room to move around, right? Do all the things on. And God said, what about this? And I'm like, right? It's red, it's small, it's low to the ground. So for 40 years, I'm just gonna, okay, this side of the chair didn't work, but let me try over here. And as women, don't we kind of say, okay, maybe this part of my plan still works, right? But what I found is God said, no, I want you here. Because this chair will hold you. This chair is what I have planned for you. You guys see my feet up? This is what I have you, this is what I made you for. And I say that I was in a relationship and I thought that we planned to get married. And Holly's actually a part of my story. She one day after church said, what are you doing after church? And I said, what are we doing? Chips and salsa, maybe some margaritas? She said, hosting Alpha. I said, what Holly didn't know is I had been praying, God, how do you want to use me? So she said, hosting Alpha. I said, let me get back to you. I go into church, and God was like, hey, remember that prayer? Remember that prayer? So I started hosting Alpha, and I didn't know the plans God had for me, but he changed my life. He changed my motivations. And with my relationship, it started to seep into my God, started to seep into my relationship. And as probably most women know, when you're not married, it's not always cohesive, right? So at the beginning of the pandemic, he broke up with me, and I didn't know what to do when I was lost. And I had just started to work out. I had just started to run. And I very clearly heard God say, I live in the future. That's my domain. I'm here. Your job is here. Your job is one foot in front of the other. Your job is just to trust. And so I did. I just started running. Fast forward a year and some months later, I've followed that direction of one step at a time, and my life is so incredibly different. And I almost wish you guys would have known me, but I would have been embarrassed if you would have known me 5 years ago. But 5 years ago, I was 200 pounds. Say it louder for the people in the back. 5 years ago, I was 200 pounds, and I was working in the restaurant industry as a manager. I never would have thought that today, I'm a fitness instructor, I teach spin. I get to sprinkle a little Jesus on these people. They don't even know that they're spinning to Jesus songs. I work actually for, in my opinion, biasly speaking, the greatest church in America. This one. Just in case you were curious, it's where I got the chair from. And I'm a preschool teacher. And the funny thing about that even is I ran away from that for a full year. I saw the listing, but I was like, Lord, I'm not doing it. And God said, I have other plans for you. And ladies, let me tell you, my life is so full. Because going back to that 100 children, I have one child. Because God knew, you're going to be a single mom. You're going to make some choices. You're sitting in your chair a little bit too long. So there's some natural consequences you're going to have to deal with. But I am so good. And I knew this before you were born. And I love you so much that what he did is he gave me a job at Hope, where my literal job is taking care of kids. They're my babies. They're my whole entire babies. He also gave me jobs previously where people didn't know God. And all of a sudden they were asking me questions. And ironically, my friend asked me to be a part of Alpha, where that's the basis. Do you have questions? Shameless plug for Alpha, by the way, if you haven't done it. If you have questions, come and ask, come and see. And so the last thing I'll say, it's so powerful for me, is that God said, once you release the plans you had for your life, watch out. Because he's going to fill it with things. I didn't get my 100. Thank the Lord, because 100 babies at 42, my God, right? What was I thinking? But I got other people's kids that I love so much. I got these people that are coming to my spin class and don't even know I get to pray over them. I get to bust their whole butt. Can I say butt? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I get to bust their whole butt during spin class and sprinkle some Jesus on them. And so God, just in his own way, said, I know that looks comfy, and it is. I'm going to get back up there. But I know that looks comfy, but you have no idea the abundance, the blessings, the relationships that I will bring to you down here. So just one step at a time, that's my story.
I don't have any props. I'm Abbey Robertson, and I think why I'm up here is because I had a similar plan for my life of what it was going to be like. I knew I was going to be a mom. I always knew it to the core. And it's still something that I am challenged with, like knowing something to the core. We should go with that. I think that's your God gut. But I struggled for many years, and I said, oh, my scary age is 30. Then my scary age was 35, and then it was 40. And I still wasn't married. I still didn't have any kids. And I prayed about it a lot. I didn't understand it was this roadblock in my life. I thought, how do you force something like that? I probably should write a book because I've been on that many blind dates. And then I went on one really, really bad last blind date. And I said, oh my gosh, God, thank you for this clarity. I know what I'm supposed to do now. And the very next day, I checked into adoption. And I went on a 3-4 year journey with adoption as well. And I truly believe I have my 2 daughters today because I am on their plan. I wanted my plan, and my plan looked a special way. But I really believe, this is going to make me cry. Yep. I'm really on their plan, you guys. So I think sometimes when you're knocking on the door of God and you're praying, you say, why are you not giving me this? Or what is this going to look like? You know, my girls weren't ready for me yet because they had a different life. When they came to me, they were 10 and 13 and their parents had passed away. And we're the best 3 family members that you could have. And I'm so blessed for that. But when you're in it, it's so frustrating. I know we've all been there. It's just, what is the answer to this? And I tell you, we were singing that song about something has to break. I don't know about you guys, but wow, right? Wow. Something has to break. And in my breaking point, I'm type A. I got it together, you guys. I got a plan. And it's going to go according to plan. And I might get a little tense if it doesn't. So, that being said, it was all going as planned, sort of. I'm now, 44 at the time. And it's the night before we were supposed to, my girls are from Central African Republic. I had to fly them to a different country to get them here because of everything going on there. So we were flying to this country, and the power of attorney that was helping me, this African man, said, oh, sorry, your visas weren't done correctly, so you don't have visas to bring the girls back to the United States. So I'm like, single woman going over there. I went with another couple, and it broke me. That was my night that I got broken. And I thought, I'm going to be in this country for who knows how many months with children that may or may not remember me, that I can't speak to. They didn't have any English. And I tell you, I have been a Christian my whole life. I've been gifted with that from my parents. But I had never been broken where I fully, to my knees, threw my arms up and said, I don't have this. Yeah. I don't have this. I don't know what's going to happen, and I have to give it up to you. Normally I pray for things, and I've got, again, the agenda and all that, and I think that's my biggest learning through all of this is to ask the question of God, to ask, what is it, you need or want or need me to do, or where are we going from there? But I give it up to you, which is, for a type A, if you guys are out there, it's hard, because you just got to give it up. So, I think that's the gist of it.
Okay. Ladies, thank you. Those words will preach, ladies. Yeah. Yep. I want to ask each of you, and you can decide who wants to go first. I guess, Holly, you went first last time, so you've had the biggest break, so you can go next. How do you feel like God really reveals himself to you the most? And what I mean by that is, like, some people would say they hear an audible voice. Some people, visions, they dreams, or God shows up in their dreams, or sometimes it's gut feelings, sometimes it's signs. How would you say that God shows up to you the most? And kind of how did you learn how to recognize that was God and not something else?
Perfect. So I would say God, and I think, Amanda, you said this too, your gut, right? So my first learning one way that I'd say God, I felt like I was speaking to is my gut. But what I had to do is to start asking and having other people pray for me or intercede and say, am I hearing right, or is this like off? Because this could be off, and it could be pizza, and it could be whatever else that I personally want to happen, and maybe now what God's leading for me. So I would say my first one I really hear is my gut. And if it's a big decision, I always make sure I have people praying or asking to make sure that's right. The second part I would say is, like, I get signs, and that was back to that stop sign. Like, I could have probably 3 stop signs, and then the final I'm like, man, that's like 3 signs in a row. I wonder what I'm supposed to be paying attention to, or if now it's been a little bit more nature, so like nature will speak out, and so I really have now questioned, like, what God are you trying to show me, right? What does that look like? Am I missing something? And also probably like some, I would say that like a vision could pop up, and I just have to ask him and make sure, but I always go back to making sure people are praying with me as well to intercede and make sure I'm not off, because if you're going to go, and especially if it's a big move, you don't want to be going on what your really personal heart wants and not what God has for you.
Yeah, and I will just say, from my own personal experience, if I feel like just in this moment that maybe there is something that God wants me to hear, I'm going to go to Holly. It's true facts. She has that. And when did you really start to become aware of that, Holly, in your life?
So when I came back, I was a women's basketball coach. I moved back here in 2008, and then I got involved in Alpha. So you guys, I'll put the plug in for Alpha as well, and I've been an Alphaholic since then. But I think as I continue to grow and trust in God and started giving everything of what I was holding on to my past, the things that I did or things I felt ashamed about or what I was questioning, I kind of like, we all had this kind of similar story. Like, I thought I was going to be married and have kids by now, right? And so you question all that stuff. But what I love that God did was, in the process of this, he put people around me that knew him and were like a family, and they are the ones that continued to help grow that. And so through these last 12, 13 years, the process only continues to grow more. And I continue to sit down and spend time with him in his word and continue to put myself around community. That's when I think it started growing. So I would say even so maybe 10 years ago, but now it's fast-tracked, and I feel like there's always new things he's ready to show us. It's like, especially in this season, I'm like, there's more stuff that we don't even know that it's going to happen, and I'm just like, yes, let's go. But that's my excitement, because he's such a good father in that way.
All right, Tsehaye, so same question.
Same question. Well, I read this question wrong, so I have 3 answers, because again, extra. But I will say the word. The word. He speaks to me through the word. And I've heard that so much, but for a long time I couldn't hear. And I don't know that it wasn't that he wasn't speaking, but I couldn't hear. Because I read stories that I've known since I came out the womb, because I had great parents. But also, when I read them now, all of a sudden they mean something completely different. So I think that he talks to me a lot through the word. But the number one way I think is through coincidence, which I do not believe in. And it's my favorite line to use. So if you talk to me, I'm going to say to you at one point, either it's coincidence or either there's a God that he's maybe trying to tell you something. And so I might be praying about, it might start in the word. I might have an idea that starts in the word. And then it might foster in my mind, and I might be thinking about it. And then I might come to church, and Holly might say, hey, want to talk? And she might confirm something, which has happened before. And so through confirmation, he confirms that he's talking to me through numerous people, through songs, through TV. I just find that if it's of God, it comes back around, which makes sense, right? Because God's not going to tell you something important and then just be like, hey, I hope you get it. That's not the God we serve. He's the kind of God that says, I know I made you that way. I got like 5 more options for you to pick it back up. And that's how he works. Also a gut feeling, which also came from Alpha, and hosting his presence. Praying for people. I prayed for a couple of you in here, and I think I said the same thing to all of you. God, I get a gut, what you said, to the core. And I got to say it. And it's terrifying from this position because I don't know if it's relevant. I don't know if I'm telling you to be bold and you're already the boldest person in the world. I'm not telling you to, I don't know. But 100% of the time that I pray and God gives me that gut and I say it, I open my eyes and I'm always blessed with this look on women's faces. I just prayed for another lady that was like, yeah, that's what I needed. And I was like, thank God. And I told God this a long time ago, be bold with God. I told God, I'm going to keep showing up as long as you show up. But you stop showing up, God, I'm done. Guess what? I'm still here.
Yeah. That's awesome. You said that he speaks to you through your word, and I'm just curious, because I'm just a curious person. What is the passage, or here's what I want to know. Is there a character in the Bible that speaks to you the most right now? You get to pick one.
Right now?
Right now. Well, I mean, yeah. Today.
Right
currently.
now? That's a great question. I'm going to have to go with, I think I'm a...
Stumped her,
tell
you
you.
guys. She doesn't know what to say. I
I'm
got
going
her.
to tell you. You know who it is? I'm going to go with Jacob.
Shut up, because that's the one that I've been thinking about too.
Really?
Yes. Which,
See?
okay,
hold on. So either that's a coincidence or
God instance.
God is real.
what in Jacob's story is getting, which part? Is there a particular part?
I love that Jacob was, like, he kept messing up. You guys notice that? He kept doing things his own way. He kept sitting in the big comfy chair. And God didn't let that deter Jacob's story. It really resonates with me that he was perfectly imperfect, right? And his flaws and his pride and his wanting to do things the way that he thought. But he also was humble. And he let God direct his path. And I think because he did, his story's in the Bible. So I just think that I just love that he is so imperfect in there, but he's also like God used him. And I think that's probably true to be said about a lot of them, but thanks to my mother, shameless plug for BSF studies. That's what we were studying. So I think that's why it sits with me so.
Okay, because I had Genesis, I think it's 32 in my talk for this morning, and I ran out of time, I didn't get there. But it's the one where Jacob is wrestling with, it turns out to be God that Jacob is wrestling with. And the whole thing is that Jacob has had his whole life, a couple decades of his life, where he had messed it up so bad, and he was hiding, and he was scared his brother was going to literally kill him. And then he had to go back and meet his brother, and he's still not a super great guy because he puts like his least favorite people in his family in front, just in case his brother's going to go on a murder rampage. This is the guy that we're dealing with here, right? And then that night before he meets up with his brother, he and God wrestle, and really, God was saying to him, this wasn't really a battle for God, but like, Jacob, are you going to insist on doing this your way? Because if you're going to insist on doing this your way, people are going to get hurt. But I'm here showing up for you to let you know you don't have to do it all. I'm going to do this for you.
May I raise my hand and say something? So that Jacob one, I heard it once where, in the Bible, where it says at first he's wrestling with man, and then angel, and then God. And somebody pointed out that man he was wrestling with, could he be your past self?
Yeah, it was his own self.
Could he be?
Sure.
Could it be that comfy chair that you want to get back in because it's comfy? So I love that, and I think that's so much a part of where I'm at too. Is like, and ending with wrestling with God and finally saying, and it wasn't without its hip, right? It wasn't without that hip.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Okay. Well, that was an interesting diversion, Abby. So how do you hear God's voice? What is the most predominant way that God speaks to you?
I think for me, I see things as well. I think because my eyes are open, looking for it perhaps, because I'm looking for that guidance. again, in the story with my girls, which is just such a big part of my life because they've only been with me for 3.5 years, but there were times in that story where I was super stressed or there was rebel activity, and then God would just be like, here you go, check this out. And it'd be something really amazing, but my eyes were so open for it because I needed him so much during that time that I was able to see it. I mean, crazy things like, and again, I do feel like I'm on my girls' journey. The orphanage that they came from was built by a missionary family in the 1930s. Their last name was Rosenau, Baptist missions family for several generations. Things were crazy in the country, and I got a phone call that this Judith Rosenau, who is the granddaughter of the people that built the home, was wanting to meet up and be at a church where we were raising money. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And then they told me that she lived in Rhinebeck, Iowa, which is my hometown of 1,200 people.
Right.
So God gave me that little, here you go.
So to be clear, the orphanage in Central African Republic was started by a family whose granddaughter lived in Little Rhinebeck, Iowa. How many people roughly live in Rhinebeck, Iowa?
1,200.
Uh-huh.
She's one of them.
Yep.
So really, really like one in a bazillion chance. I mean, they live in a village, not even in the capital city, but they lived in a village in this house in the middle of a country that probably most of you have never even heard of. I had never heard of it until that time. And then this woman who can still kind of remember the language and was able to, speak that with them. And then also there's a woman in Ankeny that grew up in the house right next door who, her parents were missionaries as well. Again, and this is a village. They speak Sango. Nobody speaks Sango unless you come from a village in Central African Republic. She grew up there. She lives in Ankeny and found me the day before I left to go to Africa. When I was on my knees, it was my breaking point. She saw me on Facebook, contacted me that same day. So I think, again, those were not little subtle things that I needed to notice. They were gifts to me for sure. But one of the things, unrelated to my kids, but also related to them, is I try really hard to make faith-based and not fear-based decisions. To me, that is how God gifts me as well with what I'm supposed to do. I make a ton of fear-based decisions. I'm going to do this because I don't want this to happen. Or I think we'll go this way because I don't think I like what that looks like. It's not necessarily I'm going this way because this is the way I'm supposed to go. And so I do that a lot still. And I'm trying to teach my girls that, they're teens, they've got lots of fears and, uncertainties and trying to make those decisions so they don't struggle with it for as long as I have, which, I think we probably all struggle with that a little bit. But I definitely go with that gut feel. I ignore it a lot. But every major amazing thing in my life was scary and kind of, almost brought me to my knees. Even in my business, I'm a business owner, and that was a huge decision. It was based on a leap of faith that God would have me, and that it was the right choice. And even though it was not the choice I wanted to make, but I felt like it was the right choice, and it was, and it helped me, be where I am now and have the flexibility with my girls and all of those things. So a little bit of a combo of what both of you guys have, I think. Yeah. As well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Abby. So, Holly, what is your favorite Bible verse, and why do you think it's your favorite?
So when I read this question, I was like, I have a lot of verses. And then so Amanda, you would know this, and I had to Google it because I don't know. But like, how many verses are in the Bible? Like 23,145 or something like that.
To be fair, I would have Googled that also.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I did, because I was like, I sat there, I was like, what season? Where was I at? What's going on in my life? And so I have multiple ones. John 10:10 of Have Abundance Life is kind of where I sit with my training, and that's how I want something that I believe when my clients come in, that's what I want to give them, and have the eyes, just how God sees them, even if they're not faith-based, kind of like what Tsehaye was saying. I just sprinkle that onto them, right? And so then, you go back to, say it for me.
Ecclesiastes?
3, thank you. There's a time for everything. I'm sorry, I can't say everything. I said that. Psalms 37:4, take delight in the Lord. Like, I could continue to go on. So I don't have one, and I think that's okay, because I think at the time God gives you, like what Tsehaye was saying, when you're in the Word, sometimes you don't realize what you need right then, and that's then I sit there and I put it on my mirror, and then I sit and just tell myself and read it over or read it that day, because that's kind of what I need at that time. And so every time you read the Bible, kind of like what Tsehaye was saying, it might hit me one way for 2 years ago, but if today I read it, I would hit me in a different way that speaks to me in the way that I need it for today. So I think that's what I love about verses, because you could just have one, and then like my house has a lot of verses, and people are like, what's going on? But that just helps me stay grounded of who he says I am, and keeping me connected. So,
Would you say that you grew up knowing your Bible, or was that something that you came to later in life?
yes. No, I did not know my Bible. I grew up, my parents took us to church because my grandmother told my dad to do that. But my parents don't go to church. They go on Christmas, and that is it. I'm the only one in my family. I have a brother, and they go once in a while, but I'm the one that's consistent. So it's interesting because I grow. And so when I was in middle school, I was very involved in church, and then we moved my sophomore year, and then I was upset with God because I didn't understand why he took me out of the place where I felt connected, I had friends, and so I just kind of was rebellious, not with only God, but with my parents, and I've apologized because I feel bad at times, the stories I share that I did, but it's just kind of, that's where I think I'm growing more as I continue to get into the Word daily, so.
Cool. All right, Tsehaye.
Got it right here. As I told you, you guys know my season. And when I was running, and this is the verse God brought to me, and I had never read it before. But I find when I'm running, proverbially through life, right? All of a sudden I'm hyper aware that I'm in the middle of this walking on water thing, and I have no clue what the next step is. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, but this is more comfortable. But God's like, no, keep going. And this was the verse that he gave me. It's 2 Corinthians 4:16. That is why we never, it's 16 through, sorry. That is why we never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long. Yet they produce in us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. So we don't look at the troubles we can see now, right? I think that's what we do. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever.
Amen. So I'll ask you the same question. I know the answer about you growing up, was the Bible always something that you were comfortable with, or did that come later, or ebb and flow? What would you say?
So that's a funny question. My dad was a deacon growing up. My mom has always been we just went to church. That's what we did. The Bible was, for me, it was a fictional book with good stories. Not saying that but it just wasn't real. It wasn't until, and it kind of happened together, my prayer life, me genuinely, earnestly seeking God, where this became real. So I did not know my Bible until really within the last 5 years. Now, if you ask me where Amos is in the Bible, I can tell you that because my parents had me in church. What it said, I don't know. So now I would say that's a more recent, really understanding that somebody said, read your Bible and expect God to say something to you. Look for it. And what I found is when I do that, 99% of the times he does. So
It's in there that his word goes out and does not come back empty. That's one of the things you can read in there. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, Abby, what's yours?
I was going to say Ephesians 4:32 because I went to a church camp when I was in junior high, and it was a song we learned, and it has stuck with me forever. So be kind one unto another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven you.
What will it take for me to get you to sing it?
What's that?
What will it take for me to get you to sing it? I'm just.
Oh my gosh! I have 2 notes I can hit. I'm doing you a favor by not singing it.
Because when I have those songs in my head, I sing. You know what I mean? So I'm singing in my head, but I'm speaking in my. Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, so Ephesians 4:32.
I'm going to say one more too. 1 John 4:19. So when my girls first came, no English, and we had the CDs from Vacation Bible School, and they did attend Vacation Bible School. And 1 John 4:19 is, we love because he first loved us. And so I even have that for our first anniversary. I gave them a locket with a picture of their family in Africa on one side, and then the picture of us when they arrived on the other side. And it's 1 John 4:19 is what's on the back of it too, because they sang it and they could, it was fun, and it kind of, I felt like it was who we were and who we need to be, for everybody else. Alike, different cultures, different languages, who cares? Just love one another. It makes it so much better.
I love that. So when did getting in God's Word get real for you? Like, was that something you grew up with, or was that something you came to later?
I listen to you three, and I'm like, holy cow. I don't know my Bible that well. I really don't. And I think the first time that I felt like I could relate to the stories in the Bible, that they weren't just stories, but relate to the people and the flawed people that were present, with Jesus. Through the whole Bible, but with Jesus, and realizing, you have so many of those flaws yourself, and then they're represented there, was probably since attending Hope. And I've been here, since I've been in West Des Moines, so about 15 years. But every sermon, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love how they break it down so that I can relate to the characters or the people that were involved. And so I would say for the first time in my life, I feel like I can relate to it, even though I've had the stories, and I've had Vacation Bible School my whole life, essentially. But to have that choice to want to know more and learn more is I'm 47, so. Yep.
I love that. So I grew up I was born in 75. Any of you familiar with Salty?
Salty the Songbook.
Yes? Yep. So 1 John 4, 7, and 8. And anyway, I won't sing the rest of it for you. But that was, I remember it. But similar, I grew up, my parents took us to church, and so I knew, we went to the Baptist church. That is a whole different sermon. Anyway, and I'm so thankful for just like the foundation of the Bible that I had from that. And I knew the characters and knew like the big ones, and but really the Bible didn't become real for me until when I first started working at Hope like 15 years ago. I worked in children's ministry and was writing Bible lessons for 3-year-olds through kindergartners. And so literally, like, that's where God started me, like literally started me writing lessons for 3-year-olds. And then I did that for a little bit, and then I got to graduate to first graders. And then I did that for a little bit, and then I got to teach junior high. And then I got to write lessons and just a couple times when they would let me, I wasn't over that department or whatever, but then I got to help write lessons for Celebrate Recovery Kids. And then I got to write lessons for Alpha. And just like, it was a whole multi-year, multi-step experience of getting more and more and more in the Word. And I was really, really, and God used his words that he had already written to make it clear that I needed to go back to school, to make it clear that, the different things that he wanted me to do. It was in the words that he had already written. As I shared with you guys, I do gut feelings a lot, but they were gut feelings that came through his words that are there for everybody. So I'm a big fan of getting in the Word. I just cannot recommend it strongly enough, even when it gets confusing. If it's confusing, try the Message version and start out there. The NLT is also a pretty straightforward version that you can get into, and just don't be afraid to dig around and make mistakes. Yeah, anyway, okay, sorry, I'm not being interviewed, but I just interviewed myself.
Well, we like hearing from you. I like it. And I was just thinking as you're saying that, and I think it is, as you're saying this, is we continue to go it's like a deeper dive always, right? Because we have the first layer, we've got it, how long ago, there's so much more, and it has so much more details in it, and there's so much things, and you start figuring it out. So just co-signing to what you guys are saying, but I think that's even like, can I rattle 5 verses off right now? Maybe, maybe not, right? But what I know is if I get in the Word and go deeper, then he's revealing more of his character, more of what he wants for us and who we are to him. So I think that's why the Bible is such a why we are passionate about reading it, because it just continues to tell us how he created us and what he has desired and who Jesus' character is, because he's love, right? And that can help you make your decisions. If it's not love, then it's probably not Jesus or God.
Absolutely.
I talk Jesus because Jesus is my friend, so I usually say
Yes,
Jesus.
Yes. And did you know that even if you just know part of a verse but have half of the words wrong, Google will still figure it out for you?
Yeah. Yes.
Totally will. I mentioned my grandpa earlier, and I figure that he probably had the Bible memorized. I don't. Do you know why? Because Google. And I am a fan of smarter, not harder. That's all I have to say about that. Yes, right? Yes, yes. Okay. Holly, what is God teaching you right now?
Yes, good. Two couple things. One is trust. To completely trust Him all times. Sometimes I like to take control back and say that I want to go where I want to go. So it's just completely surrendering it all to Him. And also just making space for Him to move and to listen. And I feel like in the pandemic, it helped getting a little bit slowing down so you can spend time with Him. But I think as soon as it started ramping up again, I'm noticing like, where's my time? Where am I connecting? If I don't connect, if I don't get it in the morning, I mean, I can give you an example. Like on Thursday afternoon, didn't spend enough time just being with God. And by the time I was edgy, I was like looking at me and I'm like, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. So I was like, okay, Lord, I need to go spend some time with you. I said, I'll be okay in just a second. So there's the things that I know about myself is just making it a priority. And when we had space and time and I wasn't working as much, I did that much better job. So I think just being still and just knowing and then just trusting Him in it and not to take it back, just trusting and making the steps forward. I would say it's about the same thing. So it's just being still, I think, and not being always want to go. Because then I don't hear Him, and then I'm like, why isn't God talking to me? Well, you're not listening, right? So that's mine.
I would say it's so interesting because I almost said Abraham when you asked me. It's interesting. There's that 24-year gap before he had Isaac, right? And after when he first was introduced into the Bible, where God didn't ask him to do anything. God just wanted him to get used to His voice, get used to hearing Him, get used to who He is as a person. And I would say that's kind of where I am. Is God is like, I want you to get used to these gut feelings and having the boldness to say in prayer what I need to say in prayer. I think God is like, I just want you to get used to my voice. They say in Alpha all the time, God is a gentleman. It's the first time I heard it, and He's a gentleman. And I think that's the season that I'm in now, is that God is like, listen for me. Just listen for me. And sometimes He says, I want you to circumcise yourself and the whole household. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Proverbially speaking, if you know. Okay. So are you sure that's what I'm supposed to do? And I do it, and I feel like a fool. And 100% of the time, it pays off. So I think He's just, right now, I'm in a season of learning more about the relationship God wants to have with me. So.
Awesome. All right, Abby, what is God teaching you these days?
I think not to wait until it's something major in my life to have the conversation with Him. I think it's in the daily, day-to-day stuff. When I get busy, when I get crazy, I don't take the time, and I think that's the message that I get. I usually have a word every year that I try and focus on, and present is the one this year. To be present is really hard for some reason. I'm always looking ahead, trying to plan ahead, troubleshooting, all those things. And I think as women, as moms, as, in business, that's kind of our role, is to troubleshoot and look ahead. So it's really hard to pull back sometimes and just say, I just need to be here and be still and listen. So kind of some similar things that you all are saying. He's not done teaching it to me yet. I'm still trying to figure that out and learn it, and I should know because He's shown up in so many big ways in my life and given me the abundance that we're talking about. So it shouldn't be a second thought to me to come to Him with those, but I think He's still trying to teach me that and putting me in situations like this where it's forcing me to think about it and be around people that are pretty amazing in their journey with God. So I think that's part of what He's teaching me right now.
Yeah, I love it. And I'll just add for myself as well. You guys, if I get up to speak, it's a pretty good bet that what you're going to hear about is what God is teaching me right now. And sometimes I feel like when I am asked to talk about do whatever, a lot of times I just kind of joke, and I've made this joke with Mel before too, that I think sometimes that God called me to this place because I'm a little bit slower than other people. Like, yeah, Amanda, other people have figured this out a long time ago. Apparently you just have to write a sermon about it in order for it to get through your skull. But the thing that God has been teaching me, and the thing that this whole event has been about really, is that verse that's on your sticker, Ephesians 3:20, that God can do anything, far more than we could ever dream or ask for, or even dare to imagine. And if the things that we're asking God for don't make us a little bit nervous, if the things that we're asking God for don't unsettle us, if the things that we're asking God for, if we can do those things on our own, that's a good enough place to start. That's a fine enough place to start. But he can do so much more than we'd ever ask for.
I was going to say, one of the things that I always tell my girls when they're going through something, that's just a good reminder for everybody, is he knows every emotion that we have ever felt because he was human. So to not go to him and feel like we can't talk to him about that isn't.
It's not true.
It's not true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's something that the devil tells us to keep us stuck and keep us thinking that we're isolated, but it's just a straight up stupid lie. Will you guys join me in saying thank you to Abbey and Tsehaye and Holly? This has been the freaking best. This has been awesome. And that's on God, because he can do he can do anything, Let me pray over us. God, you are good. And we don't come before you today saying that you are good because we've gotten everything that we wanted. We don't declare that you are good because we see around every corner. We don't claim that you are good because of a feeling that we have. Lord, we claim your goodness because it is just who you are. And you have said that we belong to you, we are your daughters, and that the goodness that you have is ours to claim. Lord, we claim it today. We thank you for the freedom that you have given today. We thank you for the barriers that have been broken down. We thank you for healing that has happened and is continuing and beginning. Lord, we just come before you and we just say thank you for who you are and for the love that you have for us. Lord, continue to guide us and help us grow in our love for you, and to help us grow in our love of the promises that you've given us and the trust that you draw us closer to, that you can do anything, and that you desire to pour yourself out onto each and every one of us. We love you. We thank you. It's in Jesus' precious name that everybody together said, amen. Thank you for coming today.
You will lead me from glory to glory.